Hello friends, it's Candace and welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to be diving back into r/piercing advice. Now, what's going to be a little bit different about today's video, and I really want your feedback. Let me know if you like this better than my other ones, where it's just random. But I'm looking in r/piercing advice, but I'm specifying the piercing. So today we're going to be talking about Daith piercings. So I'm just going to scroll through the posts, like the most recent post about Daith piercings. Let me know what you think about this. Like, I could look up specific piercings, and then that way, if you're coming and it says something about Daith in the title, there might be a lot of different pieces of advice about Daith piercings that you can get information from, if that makes sense. Or we can just go back to how I was doing it. It's been a minute since I did one, but we could always just go back to just doing random things. I feel like random is a little bit more like fun and different, and you got a large variety of advice that goes with multiple piercings. But having videos tailored to specific piercings and issues that people have with specific piercings might be more helpful to you guys. So let me know what you like, or if you don't care, just comment down below. And also don't forget to like this video and share it. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I talk all things piercings. I'm starting to get more into tattoos. Like, I got a few videos coming up. I'm actually getting a collaboration tattoo during the tattoo convention this year. So definitely subscribe if you want to see things about that, and like comment questions down below, and you know, we got things going on. So don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, I ramble on so much. Sorry, I am so annoying, but let's get on into the video. Okay, so does my 4-month-old Daith look weird? I've cleaned it with wound cleanser, and I know they take time to heal and that piercing bumps are common, but I'm getting a little bit worried. So from initial glance, obviously it doesn't look too great. Bumps galore, which I feel like is very common with Daith piercings because of the ring, but usually the ring is the most ideal thing to heal with. But the thing with getting a ring to heal with is you want to make sure the ring is a much larger diameter, like way larger than you think you'll need. That way the ring can be as straight as possible as it goes through the tissue, if that makes sense. So it's definitely, if the ring was the correct size before the bumps happened, it is no longer the correct size for this piercing. You can tell that because look at where the ring enters the piercing. It's at a certain part of the curve, and then the ring totally curves, and the bump is even curving down even farther out from the piercing. So especially when a bump is like heavily on one side, that's how you know that your ring is pulling on your tissue and causing a lot of extra swelling. So from first glance, it really just looks like this ring is way too small. Now, I also can't really tell, I don't want to really zoom in on the nasty, but I can't tell if it's good quality. You want to make sure you have implant grade titanium when you have a healing piercing, because that will be usually the best material for you to heal. It's inert to your body. Your body should not have a reaction to it. It does happen where people are allergic to titanium, but that is extremely rare. So if I were you, I would probably try to make sure you're going to a really good piercer. Go to them. Make sure they're using implant grade titanium, which really good piercers only use implant grade titanium, or implant grade materials, not just titanium, but it has to be implant grade. Surgical steel is junk jewelry. It has nickel in it. It's not made to stay in your body for a prolonged period of time. So go to a good piercer, have them assess your situation, and get a larger piece of jewelry in. You can tell that the tissue is really curved. It should be going as straight as possible through the tissue, but since it's so swollen, it's curving a lot. The jewelry is curving a lot through the tissue. So when you're dealing with that, you really want to make sure that the jewelry will be wide enough that it won't put any stress on the tissue in terms of like the curve putting stress and pressure on your tissue. Anyway, I don't know how many times I can say the same thing. There'll probably be a lot of that with the Daith piercing, because that's like main people's problems. I want to buy this ring for my Daith. I think the current ring is 8mm. Would 8mm or 10mm of that ring look better on me? Okay, so let's just look at what the ear, let's see if they have the ear here. Okay, this is an 8mm bar. So you gotta picture it with the ring completely closed. And I'm thinking there is a decent amount of space, but if you think if the ring was 2mm wider, so basically the thickness of the bar just that much wider, I think this person should go with the 8mm. You want to pay attention to the outward shape of the jewelry, because it's not just the inner diameter. If anything, for something with a really big decorative piece that sticks out far, like this one that they're showing does. Can I scroll? Like if you look, the ring itself, the inner diameter of the ring is 8mm, if that makes sense. And then if this is a 16 gauge, then that barbell is, I think, 1.2mm. Yeah, I think it's like 1.2 or 1.6. I think the 16 gauge is 1.2mm. So you're gotta think it's 8mm across, and then if you add another millimeter for the thickness of the bar, and then there's all these beads, which are, it's hard to know because I don't know the millimeters of these gems, but let's say each of these little beads are 1mm, so it's 9, 10, 11mm, and then let's say that big middle gem is 2, 12, 13mm. So you gotta, like, it's much easier to go to a piercer and then they can see if it's the right size for you, because if you're getting something that's way too big, then it could jab into the outer part of your ear. I had that problem with my azalea seam ring. I had it in my Daith piercing. My Daith was perfectly healed, and I actually changed it myself, and I was like, dang, this is my dream piece of jewelry, and it was kind of like poking the top of my conch area a little bit, but it was pretty much fine as long as I kept it downward, which usually jewelry hangs downward anyway. But, you know, when I slept or if it moved, sometimes it just adjusted, or even like I would move it up to like scratch the inside of my ear or something. Eventually, I must have slept on it or like bumped it or something, but eventually the outward pressure from the conch pushing on the edge of the piercing really irritated my Daith piercing. So it was healed for at least a solid 6 months of fully healed, no redness, no soreness at all. Even after changing it, it was perfectly fine. A few months later, I started getting a lot of soreness there, and I had to get someone to remove it for me just because it was touching the outer like conch part of my ear, and if there was room, then it'd be good. So I'm thinking the 8mm already looks like a decent size piece of jewelry in your ear. I would go with the 8mm because 10mm will just have a much larger like gap in the circle too. Basically, get the smaller one. As long as it's not too small where you're going to have a big empty space in like the bowl of your conch, you should be good. But you don't want to get it too big and have it hit your outer conch and then have so much room where it's just the barbell. Anyway, onward. Just be straight with me, y'all. Is my Daith infected? Okay, so... Oh, okay. I was like, this has no piercing on it. So it's not really like a good thing. If we're comparing ears, most people's ears aren't perfectly symmetrical. I mean, maybe. If you're a piercer out there, let me know if you know people with perfectly symmetrical ears. But a lot of times people have variations, so showing the ears side by side doesn't necessarily like help to prove things. Like you could have anatomy for a Daith piercing on one ear and not have the anatomy on another ear potentially. So showing the original in terms of the other ear doesn't really necessarily help. But what it looks like, I bet you'll guess what I'm going to say. What it looks like is it's very swollen, and the jewelry is not and was never big enough for a healing piercing. When I got my Daith pierced, it was pierced with an 11mm captive bead ring, which was really big. In there now, that jewelry is 8mm, and it still has room between. So if I was pierced with this 8mm, that would be that much tighter of a curve, putting pressure on your healing wound. So you want to make sure it's as wide as possible. So looking at this, I don't know the exact size. I can't really tell you the exact size of this piece of jewelry, but to me it looks like it's probably an 8mm ring or 5/16 ring, and that is not wide enough to comfortably heal a Daith piercing. It will swell, it will get bumps. If this jewelry is not changed, no matter even the quality, if this jewelry is not changed to a larger diameter, there will be massive bumps. I guarantee it. Okay, but I don't know. It depends. I wonder if they said anything in the comments. to elaborate some, because I didn't want to have a super long title. I got about 2 weeks ago and have been lazy with it since I usually heal pretty good. Before you say anything, I know I'm a butt. The first pic is my other ear. For comparison, it just looks super swollen and red. Please be nice. I'm stupid. Please be nice. I am stupid. I'm self-aware. Okay, so, like, perhaps it could be infected. I don't necessarily think that just not cleaning it would 100% be like, oh, this person wasn't cleaning it, so it's infected. I think the jewelry has a lot to do with it. Like, if it has room to swell, 2 weeks is still the inflammatory period of a piercing. It's like the height of it, actually. Usually swelling, you'll be fine for a week and be like, wow, I'm like the best healer ever, everything's perfect. But after it hits the 2 week mark, you're like, dang, this is like harder than I thought it would be, especially for cartilage piercings. So I would say it could be infected, but even if it's not, the jewelry has to be changed. And that will help the swelling. Even if it's infected, you would want to have that extra room if it's swollen because of an infection. But to be fair, if you think you have an infected piercing, you should 100% go to your piercer or to a reputable piercer. And if you really think it's infected, you would want to go to the doctor. Now, this person didn't say anything about pus or extra heat or throbbing. It's really red, but you got to think it's hard to tell because it is still in the inflammatory stage with too tight of a jewelry on it. So it's going to swell even more than normal. So it's hard to tell. Get the jewelry changed and get it checked out and try to take care of it. Okay, next one. Dog pierced just over a month ago. It's been healing nicely. I rinse it with saline spray nightly, and suddenly, literally within the last few days, I have keloids forming on both sides. Help. Okay, so it's probably not a keloid. So pretty much, it's very unlikely that you would be getting keloids. Most of the time, it's just a piercing bump. It's just the irritation bump. Keloids are a genetic predisposition that you will have. Other scars on your body, you would have noticed probably before you ever got a piercing. You would have noticed that you had keloids on other parts of your body. Perhaps your parents had keloids or other people in your family suffer from keloids whenever they scar up. So you would probably know ahead of time if you were genetically predisposed to getting the keloid. But saying that, oh dang, that one looks bad as heck. Saying that, things to look out for when keloids are forming is it wouldn't necessarily be excessively like juicy, like there wouldn't be a lot of excess fluid necessarily, because it's just scar tissue building up more and more. So usually now it might be different for a fresh piercing, it might have a little bit of redness still, but usually keloids are skin color and they're just like lumps of skin color. So these are pretty localized. They look really juicy. They look like regular piercing bumps that are just really angry. It just looks like a really irritated, angry piercing. Now the angles of these photos are really horrible. Obviously I know it's to see the bump, but I can't really tell the size of the jewelry in comparison to how the ear looks. But judging by this one, it looks kind of like the diameter of the jewelry isn't big enough. It's really hard to tell without seeing it straight on to like see how it looks compared to the actual ear. But my guess is the jewelry probably isn't large enough to accommodate like the swelling and the irritation, and that coupled with if this isn't good quality jewelry, that might also be causing you extra irritation. So, wow, the theme of Daith piercings is make sure you have large enough jewelry to accommodate swelling. Let's see if they wrote anything extra. Oh, they only have replies. They try not to sleep on it, blah, 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 blah. Mind about the keloids. Similarly, I help people who get keloids easily, so I got kind of worried. Okay, so if you get keloids easily, it really could develop into a keloid. You're going to want to make sure you cut back the irritation that you're experiencing, because if you tend to develop keloids, so if you are actually really likely to get keloids, like you have them on other scars, now keloids might not necessarily happen on every scar. Some people might have perfectly healthy lobe piercings, but since lobe piercings heal faster, But since lobe piercings heal faster, it's less likely to have prolonged inflammation and irritation that would develop into a keloid. Now, I'm no doctor, I'm no piercer, maybe ask a doctor, but as far as I am aware, I'm pretty sure keloids are not just formed by a cut necessarily. Keloids are caused by like excessive like inflammation and irritation, and that's why keloids can continue to grow even after your piercing heals. It's just an excess growth of scar tissue, so it could be irritated internally, and that irritation or slight inflammation on the inside of the tissue can cause extra scar tissue. So any irritation like that is cause for concern. If you know you're genetically predisposed to keloids, you want to make sure you really nip it in the butt. You want to make sure you're taking care of it, really babying it, because the longer it takes the piercing to heal and the longer that the piercing is extremely irritated, the more likely that irritation will trigger keloids to start to form and grow larger and larger. But if you do think it's a keloid, like if you go to a piercer and they think this doesn't look normal, this doesn't look like a piercing bump, to me it looks like a piercing bump. It's not that large, it's really pink, it's really kind of weepy looking. Gotta look at it again. It's really kind of weepy looking. It looks like it's caused by the jewelry potentially. There might be some saving it. I don't remember what I was saying. Oh, my nose is so itchy. So there still be there still might be some saving it. It's not necessarily a keloid yet, but it could become a keloid. But if you go to your piercer and they say this doesn't look like a normal bump, you definitely should go to your doctor. Now, doctors can treat keloids by a cortisone shot, like a steroid shot, and that helps reduce the inflammation like very much, and it will help your piercing not only heal, but it will help prevent a keloid from forming and from growing further, if that makes sense. So comment down below, what did you think of this video? I don't know if it was a little bit more stagnant since they were all Daith piercings. It seems like everyone has the same problems with their Daith piercings of getting bumps and having too small of jewelry, or getting pierced by a bad piercer and they give poor quality jewelry, whatever the case is. So let me know what you think. Would you like more specific things? Are there specific piercings that you would like me to dive into instead of just the general? Maybe Daith wasn't a good one, but maybe something else will be a better one. I would love to hear your feedback. Let me know. Either way, don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. Send me things to react to. Give me your ears so I can curate them. All that jazz. And thank you guys so much for watching this video. I love you. See you in the next one. Bye. My hair is looking terrible. Because it's like blue. Why is it? It's like purple, and then this is not purple at all. And then I tried to even it out with purple shampoo, and then this just got more purple, and then this didn't get any purpler. It didn't even get less green. Like, ugh.